Hello and welcome back to Ballarat and the 2023 Vic Open. I'm joined by Phil Morgan.
And I'm joined by Kyle Hurwitz.
As we cover the MA1 lead card, here bringing you the front nine.
On our lead card today we have Tim Davis, Gareth Morgan, Tom Lee and Markus Villota. From Tim you'll see a lot of his defender, and he'll be approaching with his dagger and putting with his berg. Gareth, we'll see a lot of his grace, bolt, destroyer and putting with daggers. Tom will be throwing his nuke and ballista pro a lot, and his grace, and he will be putting with recos. And Markus, you'll see him putting with his PA2s, throwing a lot of FX2, D1 and M1. Hole 1, par 4, 208 metres, very difficult. You've got a main tunnel to go down, trees on left and right, low ceiling, particularly initially off the tee. You do have a pretty big branch that forces you to keep it pretty low. You want to throw something as far and as straight as you can under the ceiling, and then there is a mander up on the left up there. You want to push into the secondary tunnel, and then the basket is in the tree line on the right.
This played as the second hardest hole yesterday, 0.46 over par. Really a tough starting hole for these guys.
You got Tim
moving the camera, that's good.
throwing his grace, I believe. Nice shot up the middle. Gareth punching one up the middle as well. Here's Tom throwing his nuke. And I think that's just highs it out a little bit. It's not too bad, as long as you've got good distance off the tee. Being a little left or right isn't that big of a deal. Here's Markus throwing his D1, trying to get a turn off that left hand side, but he's just sort of thrown it into that tree line on the left. Can leave you a tough second shot, but
He's navigated that pretty well, getting a nice skip and should be pretty much with a straight look into the basket there.
now a lot of players will go low here, but there is also a higher gap, kind of go over all of the trees, but that's a great low punchy hyzer there from Gareth with his destroyer. To about back of C2.
Tom, as we mentioned, just hyzering out to that left-hand side of the tunnel. Should be able to push something straight and skip around to the left.
That low
Catches some
ceiling.
trees.
Yeah, that low ceiling did come into play a little bit there, but you'd rather be this little bit further right, so you've got a slightly straight up look at the basket.
Tim here, nice looking shot. That's going to skip around, and
Nearly hit the pole.
that's a great second shot there, and should be one of the most elusive birdies on this hole.
Yeah, if you can get into the circle on your second on this hole, that is fantastic.
Oh, lovely.
And that's a very good upshot
Nice.
there from Markus with his M1.
Just a nice, simple, spinny stepper almost.
He's left himself a little bit with that tree in play, but shouldn't be too much of a big deal. Good little up there from Gareth.
Yeah, Tom here with a little bit left, but under control.
No major dramas. Nice little approach disc putt there from Tim, who putts with the berg. And tap-ins for the rest of your card, but that is a fantastic birdie there from Tim.
Hole 2, we've got a 100-metre par 3. You've got the main gap down the left. For the right-hander, it's looking like a flex forehand, or you can poke and hope with a backhand. Really, most of these guys looking to just get something up there to 25 out and kind of work out what to do.
And as mentioned yesterday, there is kind of a lowish ceiling particularly it gets lower up you get up that left-hand side, the further left you get, which makes that long turnover kind of difficult. So these guys are kind of throwing straight up, and a couple of good shots, but you do have a lot of guardians late.
Tom just ending up in that left-hand collection zone and even getting a bit of a skip a bit further around. He'll have some look at the basket from there.
Markus throwing that forehand, but it takes a crush with the forehand to really get up and around that last corner to the basket. It is a little uphill, plays pretty far, but it was a good shot. Gareth, just a nice little Berg forehand upshot through that little gap.
Tim, again, with that Berg. You'll be seeing a lot of the Berg from this card.
Yeah, you'll also see Tom does some upshots with the Berg, not that one, that was his Rico, but yeah, three Bergs on this card. All three nice little upshots, and now some pretty short putts to clean up their pars. And like we said yesterday, this isn't a overly hard hole, but it's not a very easy birdie.
Yeah, I think most of these guys are going to be pretty happy walking off with a par here, and moving on to hole 3, the 82 metre, bit more gettable par 3, looking like a flex with an overstable mid-range for most of these guys, or you can try and throw just a straight mid-range and pierce that gap.
You do have some late ceiling issues, and the tee pad isn't very well aligned for the particular gap off the tree, and that's a bit of an awkward spot for Tim there to hit. Gareth throwing his buzz pretty straight up the guts. That's a really nice shot. He's going to find himself probably edge of circle somewhere out there, a little bit left.
Tom just group locking it a little bit.
Oh, he's having that alignment issue with the tee pad again, like we were saying. It almost forces you to throw that little flex like Markus is just throwing with him too. Because you have to kind of release pretty wide outside the tee box if you can.
Just that dead straight flight there for Tom, and that'll find him at the back edge of circle in the 8 metre range.
Yeah, nice little straightforward dagger shot from Tim. That's well played. And now Markus with a just outside circle birdie look. Not a ton of birdies on this hole, and he just comes up a tiny bit short.
Gareth, similar distance here.
And he's rung that up.
Dead centre. That's a great putt.
Super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
Not often the line you see for birdies on this hole, putting through those 2 trees, but never looked like missing. It's a great putt from him.
Yeah. All of this card have shown by the fact that they're on lead card in MA1 that they've got to be able to putt very well, and unfortunately that was just a little high from Tom. But this is the kind of course where in these higher divisions you really need to be able to putt well. Oh, that's just a bit unfortunate. Tiny bit left, but the basket just said no thank you and spat it out.
Yeah. Cleaning up here from a card and try and move on to the next one.
Hole 4, par 3, 105 metres. You've got a couple of options off the tee. You can throw a forehand or a turnover up this gap that the drone is flying through, pushing off to the right. The hole is slightly uphill, which means you need to kind of give it quite a bit of height. Or there is a sneaky hyzer backhand out to the right. Gareth is throwing through that main wider gap out to the left, and that is a big turnover, and that is really nice. He's put him to about midway through C2.
Markus here lining up the forehand. He's favoured this line so far, and that looks really good, getting on the outside of that gap and hopefully skipping just to the edge of circle there.
I think he's just clipped the top of Gareth's disc there, actually. It's a very nice shot.
Tim opting for that sneaky backhand gap, and I think on this occasion he's gotten caught up midway down the fairway.
hasn't gotten super sneaky. And Tom just throwing through that left-hand gap. Didn't get overly lucky. There's a bit of lucky, a little bit of late, almost plinko with these guardian trees on this hole. But as long as you can put yourself somewhere where you can get up and down, like him and Tim have both done, it's a pretty straightforward par this hole. Here's Gareth putting for his birdie from about 14 metres.
Just a bit low there, possibly getting a bit knocked down by that tailwind that's appeared.
And it is notable that the wind is quite a bit up on what it was yesterday, and we see Markus a little low as well with that jump putt. But the comeback is safe.
And another par frame from the card. Really solid first 4 holes. No real major issues, which was always nice. Hole 5, 206 metre par 4. Again, trying to shoot somewhere around these poplars. A really good drive is getting through to about here. And then you have either a forehand or backhand into a fairly open green. Those trees on the left at about 8 metres left of circle.
And it is nice, by the way, to be not talking sarcastically when we talk about sunny Ballarat. The weather for this weekend was fantastic. Gareth just overturned his drive a little bit, got a cut roll, but he's still in a great spot.
Markus throwing FX2 here has absolutely ripped one into that slight headwind.
He got the perfect shape, and that is a fantastic drive. You won't see many air shots get that far. Some people are throwing rollers, or the giant turnover out to the left, which is a pretty common play with the higher divisions. But that is a fantastic distance for an air shot. Up that much tighter right-hand gap. And as I say, it is Tim demonstrating that left-hand turnover.
I think this one's just a bit overturned and it's going to roll out into that left-hand area. He should have a shot to the green from there, just not quite getting it right into that headwind.
And Tom has done what Alan did yesterday, just got a little caught up on that early stuff on the right. Here's Gareth's shot. He's got a few options. He's going for the hyzer out the right-hand side, which is pretty safe. It's pretty hard to get all the distance to that basket, but he's given himself probably a long jump putt.
Tom throwing his second from OB here, just looking to get back in position.
He was a bit unfortunate with that kick off the early trees to go OB there. But he's thrown a good recovery shot, and here's Tim.
Tim also turning something over into the headwind, not quite going to find OB, but a long way over there to the right.
Markus, from this far, it's just a straightforward M1. This is not a short shot for an M1, by the way. That's huge. It's very impressive to split a hole in half like that, and that is a slightly sawn off upshot there from Tom.
Tim giving his berg a bit of space to spread its wings with a nice upshot there.
There's that long jump putt from Gareth, and he's fucked. It's pretty straightforward. That's a straightforward way to play the hole. Good putt there from Tom.
That's a great bogey save from Tom after that early OB.
Yeah.
Really minimised the damage there on what can be a pretty tricky hole.
It's a long enough hole that if you go OB off the tee, you've really got to be on top of it to stay out, to score well out of it. Hole 6, par 4, 192. This is a fairly hard hole. You have to get into this tunnel or stay left or right of it. A lot of people throw a high turnover and get out to the left, or a roller or something, and then give themselves a big upshot, but your other option is staying down this tunnel with the low ceilings. A lot of skip on offer for that second shot in though. Markus just looking to punch a big hyzer into this gap to get in.
And getting a nice skip across that tunnel, and this will shape well for a nice hyzer second shot, giving him some space on the right to really push it a bit wider.
Gareth's doing a shot that I quite like on this hole, the big cut roller. It will push you out into that left-hand side or keep you in the middle, but it just takes those low-hanging branches out on the right-hand side of the tunnel so much out of play.
And that was a great shot from him there, just coming up short of the normal amateur basket, leaving him with a pretty nice upshot. Tom, following the line of Markus, just punching through into that mid-tunnel, and he's done a great job of that.
Basically an identical spot. Well done. And Tim has made his way into the middle.
He's throwing his Supreme Escape here, just trying to turn something and end up straight down that tunnel and catches an early branch.
I think Tom's just decided that he's a little further left than he wants to be, particularly the downhill run-up going into a low ceiling is pretty tough. But he's thrown a good forehand out into the open side, and Markus has elected to go for it and just found that ceiling, like you said.
Probably a bit of anxiety there about that M basket. I definitely found it through the week, being able to push something that low. Yeah, it's a tough second shot to navigate.
Well, if you're on the slope, your disc release point is on level with the ceiling, so you kind of have to throw down. It's a tricky shot, but that's a good couple of upshots.
Tim with a long look here for his birdie.
It was a very good second shot to get him into position, but the putt just a little low. Here's Gareth.
Also with a look for birdie into a headwind. Just not quite getting over that rim.
Just wanted that little bit more of a wind gust right there, you feel. It was a good bit though.
Markus just tidying up for his par. An unfortunate limb on his second shot, but still no damage to the scorecard.
And tap outs for the rest of the card. Not a badly played hole. It's like we said, it's a tough hole.
Hole 7, 188 metre par 4. For the right-hander, should be 2 hyzers, or a hyzer and a flex, trying to get around this second batch of trees and crash into this downsloping green. Quite an exposed green, which means even with a birdie putt on this hole, it's not guaranteed today with that wind, but still definitely gettable for these guys.
It's a very good shot from Markus. Just punched it out into the open there.
Gareth here, following that line pretty similarly, just catching that branch and getting knocked down.
Yeah, that ceiling does come into play as you exit the gap.
Oh, wow.
This is leaking a little for Tim. That tree that he's just gone into is not really somewhere you want to be. That's the perfect kind of shape there.
Beautiful Tom, right?
Yeah, that's up past Markus for Tom. That's enormous. Great looking shot.
Gareth now pretty badly out of position, throwing some kind of flat. Oh, he's trying to throw a roller. And it's just going to curl up and give him a pretty straightforward approach.
Tim here, he had some weird branches just in his follow through, couldn't quite give it the height needed, but he should have some look there.
Markus, that's his M1, and as you can see, this kind of area is basically your ideal landing zone. Put him to edge of circle somewhere, and Tom in a similar kind of position has just sorted off a little early.
Gareth ended up pretty alright off that roller. From out of position, this should be a fairly routine up and down for him.
Nice little berg up shot there. Now a long jump putt for Tim. And it's just dropped next to the basket.
For putting with the berg, he gets a lot of distance on these putts.
He does.
He does very well.
Tim gave that a solid bid, but as you can see from the flag, this green is very exposed, and with the wind being up as it was today, it's a scary green to run a putt in. Good bid from Markus, but just not quite there. And that's a good save from Tim, and a little bit of banter there.
Yeah, these guys were having a good time during this round. They're a fun bunch.
Yeah, the weather was good, and
You might have.
3 South Australians on the card, I believe.
Good putt, Gareth.
Thank you, thank you.
Good tap in there from Gareth.
On to hole 8, we've got a 175 metre par 4. Most people want to push through to about here, just any disc that is straight and will get you there. And then your second shot wants to hyzer around this second set of trees on the left to get into this blue basket. Markus here ripping on a D1, I believe, and just getting it to flip up beautifully into that headwind, and that'll be a great second shot.
And Gareth throwing the roller on this hole, I hadn't really seen this line at all until this weekend, the weekend of the tournament.
Center cut.
But it's quite a nice play. It can put you into a very good spot, and it does bring that early ceiling. Not very early, but that ceiling of that pine tree completely out of play. That's a good big hyzer there from Tim.
A lot of open space out there. Like, you can really not go too far wrong so long as you don't flip the disc over. Like, even Tom's there, that'll find plenty of open space, and you can just stall your hyzer around that outside tree.
The main issue is with how tucked into the back of that group of trees that last basket is, and you can, if the further left you are, you can kind of try to do what Gareth has done there, which is cut it a little bit too fine and bring those trees into play, or you overcompensate and push it out too wide like Tom has done. So highlighting the misses there, thanks boys.
Tim just a bit inside, but I think this is going to...
He's gone the high stally route, which I like. It lets the disc come back a lot more, but he has pushed it deep. Markus, when you're as far up as that, that's a fantastic shot.
Really nice chip backhand there.
Tom, from where he was, has just given it a nice little jump putt layup.
Gareth here with a bit of a scramble left. A nice
little tomahawk layup with the berg.
Tim a long way deep, gives this a bit of a bid, and not too far left.
Good putt there from Gareth. Here's Marcus's putt for birdie. That's a really good birdie. It's not the easiest hole on the course, this one, and Tim's just left himself a little bit. And he just pushes through that right hand side a little bit. He just gave himself left himself with a little bit too much from that aggressive jump putt. And he and Tom will tap out. Hole 9, not a very hard hole as such, but a very difficult birdie. It's a par 3, 122 metres. You've got early bush on the left, late bush on the right, and then these guardian trees in front of the basket. It's a long hole. It's very difficult to get up for the birdie on this hole. Markus throwing his D1, and he has punched that. That is a huge drive.
He's done exactly that.
He's put it to the guardian trees. For a lot of people, they'll be throwing a forehand because of this initial bush on the right, and the miss is left. There's so much open space out there on the left, but it's hard to get a straight shot that far. Gareth's safe. Tom is just throwing that big hyzer out into the open, just taking the par. The birdies were all the danger is.
Tim not quite getting over on it and just leaking out to that left hand side, but again, no trouble to be found out there, especially with this being the angle that they're left with.
A little bit of ultimate form. Berg upshot there from Tom. Puts him really close. Now, I'd just like to shout out Pat Graham for nearly acing this hole on my card.
Yeah, I was like, what am I doing?
2 days in a row. Good little layup there from Gareth.
Initially trying to punch through those trees, opted for the safer forehand flick.
And a bit of a soft bid, I think, there from Tim. And here's Markus's birdie, and this is a rare birdie. opportunity on this hole. He has cashed it.
That's a great putt. Awkward little stance there, but again, a birdie is a birdie.
Don't jump off
And the rest of the card tapping out their pars. And that is the end of the front nine.
That leaves us with Markus currently in the lead on this card, shooting a very handy 3 under through the first 9 holes, and that's a quite impressive score, especially in the wind today. Following that, Gareth is 1 under through 9, and then Tim and Tom both struggling in areas with a 2 over through the front 9. And that is exactly the order that we're left with at the conclusion of 9 holes.
Half of the tournament's been played, half of it yet to come. See you on the back nine.
Good stuff.